Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very important live stream. Breaking news, the Rex Heuermann, Long Island serial killer. We know he pled guilty to 7 murders that he was charged with, and he also admitted to an 8th murder. In court today, those were the charges. We're going to listen to it on replay because you weren't allowed to live stream it, and the judge, when he got on the bench, Judge Mazie, I don't know if you're familiar with him, Lieutenant Commander, retired NYPD Joe Cardinale is here with us. Judge Mazie was very specific about New York state law, which requires no cameras of live streaming in the courtroom. It sucks. That really does stink, but we're going to get to listen to it. Joe, before we do, your thoughts on Rex Heuermann pleading guilty and not going through with presenting his case. His attorney right here, Michael Brown, said that his client was hands down, not guilty of all the charges up until today. Your thoughts?
Exactly, up until today, and then his whole tone changed on it. You know, I have mixed emotions about this. I wanted the trial. I really did. I wanted everybody to see him for the animal that he is. All right, by doing this, they're only getting a glimpse of it. Until Ray Tierney gives his side of it, they'll know what kind of an animal he really is. I think he skates very, very easy with this. He gets this works for the defense. All right, this works for them. It doesn't work for the families. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
It saves some of the families who don't want to hear it. They don't want to go through that again because and see what they live by. But I have to tell you something. I really wish they would have went to the trial with this. But you know what? Ray Tierney's a very smart man. He's a brilliant DA. I'm telling you, I know him, and I think the families knew they were in great hands with him. And this is the outcome that they wanted. They have somebody held accountable for the murders of their loved ones, and now an additional one, number 8. And I think that's very important to the families to see that justice, no matter how it comes down, is finally served, and this man will never see the light of day again.
You know what, boss? I couldn't have said it any better, and I want to thank you for that. And I just want to add one thing to it. Animals are better creatures than Rex Heuermann. And I know I always say it, he's an animal, but this guy is a demon, as former police commissioner Rodney Harrison said very well at the microphone. He's a demon walking amongst us, and there's no in between. This man is a killing machine, and if he wasn't caught, I said it earlier on the preview that we did, if he wasn't caught and taken into custody, he was ready, boss, to kill more of these sex workers. He was communicating with prostitutes before they took him into custody. So they were in fear, Rodney Harrison said, that he was going to kill again. And that's the reason that they pounced on him in July of 2023 outside of his office. So make no mistake, this man is a monster. He's a demon. Let's listen to Rex Heuermann talk in full in court today while we wait for the Suffolk County District Attorney, Ray Tierney. And Joe, it was not a surprise to me because I know you know a lot of people, but when you told me that you know Ray Tierney and you've spoken with, had conversations with him, I thought that was interesting insight for us to know and learn about what kind of a prosecutor he is. And you said it very well there in your opening. So some people had some concerns about him because he's not the best speaker, neither am I, but he got the job done and he presented his case in court. So let's take a listen in and we'll get right back to you when the press conference starts.
Let me know when you're ready. Okay. When you need him uncuffed, just let me know.
This was 11:16 a.m. Eastern time, folks. This is when it happened. Rex Heuermann is being brought into the courtroom as we speak.
Coming out, Judge.
On the looks record, like he's rear handcuffed.
I'm going to do the waivers first. Okay. For the defendant, Michael Brown.
Folks, Rex Heuermann is rear handcuffed for anybody that was asking that question.
20 calls now in Central New York. Good morning, Judge. Good morning.
Thank you, Your Honor, and thank you, Mr. Brown. As I was beginning to say,
It is the understanding of the District Attorney's Office that the defendant will plead guilty to 7 counts in the indictment, specifically counts 1 through 3 and counts 7 through 10. Counts 4 through 6 will be dismissed in satisfaction at the time of the defendant's sentencing. In addition to allocuting to and admitting his factual guilt to all elements of counts 1 through 3 and 7 through 10 of the indictment, the defendant further agrees that although he has not been charged with this crime, he will admit as part of his plea that he intentionally caused the death of Karen Vergata and transported and left her remains in Suffolk County in 1996. The District Attorney's Office agrees that in exchange for the defendant pleading guilty to counts 1 through 3 and counts 7 through 10 of the indictment and admitting to the uncharged murder of Karen Vergata, the District Attorney's Office recommends the following sentence. Counts 1 through 3, murder in the first degree, the maximum sentence of life imprisonment without parole to run consecutive to each other. Counts 7 through 10, the maximum sentence of 25 years to life imprisonment to run consecutive to one another and with the sentences on counts 1 through 3. To summarize the foregoing sentence, the defendant agrees to serve 3 consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole regarding counts 1 through 3, followed by 4 consecutive sentences of 25 years imprisonment to life to run consecutive to one another. Should the defendant allocute to the murder of Karen Vergata, the defendant's guilty plea and this plea agreement will satisfy and cover the uncharged homicide of Karen Vergata. In exchange for all of the above pleas, there will be no further prosecutions pertaining to the murders of the aforementioned 8 victims: Karen Vergata, Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. The defendant will acknowledge both orally and in writing that he has received voluminous and sufficient discovery to make an informed decision regarding his plea here today. The defendant will further waive any objections to the District Attorney's compliance with Article 245 of the Criminal Procedure Law. The defendant has also agreed to withdraw all motions currently pending before this court. As set forth in the written waiver of right to appeal, the defendant agrees to waive his right to appeal, which includes the court's prior hearing determination, as well as any claim that the sentence imposed by this court is excessive. The defendant further acknowledges that he has been fully apprised by his attorneys of the rights and privileges that he is waiving, and that his waiver is being agreed to knowingly and voluntarily and made for the purpose of receiving the benefit of not being charged with the murder of Karen Vergata or any other charges related to the deaths of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, Amber Costello, Valerie Mack, Jessica Taylor, and Sandra Castillo. Finally, counts 4, 5, and 6 will be dismissed in satisfaction at the time of sentencing. And I believe in the beginning, with regard to the 8 victims, I inadvertently left out Sandra Castillo.
Judge, can he be uncuffed for a moment just to sign certain documents?
Sarge?
Yes, Judge. All right, Rex, we're going to sign this. I'm going to sign right here, please. This is the way with this guy right here. And then
While we listen to and watch Rex Heuermann signing court documents being uncuffed, please take a moment to hit the like button, subscribe, and share this video. We will be covering the press conference with Ray Tierney, that's the Suffolk County District Attorney, at 2 p.m. We don't anticipate it starting on time, but if it does, we'll cut away from this. This is 14 minutes of Rex Heuermann pleading guilty to 7 murders and acknowledging the 8th murder of Karen Vergata, not being charged with it. And as I was speaking, boss, I'm going to put us back on, LT. I saw you shaking your head, and I know what you're going to say when we come back. You know, some of these things that were just read out in court, first time I'm hearing it. I feel like this guy shouldn't have gotten any leeway as it pertains to the brutal nature of his crimes and how he dismembered and discarded a victim's head, was found way out east, and then the rest of her body, the torso and legs, were found back down by Gilgo. This man is, again, I keep saying it, and I keep saying it over and over again, a demon walking amongst us and existing, boss. These criminals, he was going to Starbucks every morning, getting on the LIRR and going into the city. So, a scary thought.
Let me just add something, Ron, just so your audience is clear about something. All right. Ray Tierney may be a man of few words when it comes to providing the details of something up until this point. All right. But rest assured, he held many facts close to the vest because he was dead set on this being presented and playing out in a court of law, and he was prepared for that. Right? Make no mistake about it. You will see how Ray speaks about this later on. I can guarantee you that he ran it by the families the best he could to let them know what was going on, and these families have closure, and that was paramount for him. Nobody could have led this investigation the way he did. I'm telling you, not anybody, because we had failed attempts by incompetent people. All right. But rest assured, it was not the incompetence of the Suffolk Police Department or anybody that worked alongside with them. It was people at the top that stymied this investigation. And Ray did not do that. And you had a good man on, that you spoke about before, Rodney Harrison, who actually, started with this as well. And he, got the ball rolling, because when you have cooperation from the lower level, from the boots on the ground, all the way up to the DA's office and everybody in between, this is the results from that. And one other fact, the only animal I would compare him to is a wolverine, who just kills for the sake of killing. Doesn't do it for food or anything. So that's the kind of animal he would be. So
yeah, and we're used to saying that. We're used to saying it because we're dealing with savages like this that do these horrible things, and some people get insulted and they're like, "Oh, my dog is." Don't compare him. Listen, we're not comparing him to a friendly animal. We love animals. At the end of the day, Rex Heuermann is a demon, and he walked among society, and he was a menace to society, because anybody at any particular time could have become a victim, especially young petite females. That's what he preferred. In his humongous stature and size, they refer to him as an ogre, right? He looked for the weak. He preyed on small, petite women so he could brutalize them. And ultimately, he, dismembered a lot of his victims. And it's horrible to say it, but when we as police detectives and investigators and bosses, like Joe is a retired lieutenant commander of a detective squad, we see this kind of evil day in and day out. And it is really, really concerning. And some people ask me, especially my neighbors, "Hey, Ron, when you go out and cut the lawn, why do you got your gun on you? Sometimes your shirt pulls up, I could see it." Because you never know when a demon like this can come walking up. And I want to be, as Ed says, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your six. That's applicable to everybody here, not just cops.
That's right.
Let's listen in.
That's it. Thank you. Judge, that's our understanding. I'll be joining that application.
Thank you. Mr. Heuermann, before I swear you in and the elocution is taken, I have some questions to ask of you. They're obvious and simple questions, but I have to ask them. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are you?
62.
Do you read and write English?
Yes.
Have you discussed this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
Have you had enough time to discuss this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
After discussions with your lawyer, you feel it's in your best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the manner in which your attorneys represented you in this case?
Yes, I am.
I must say that the attorneys on both sides of this case have been excellent, unbelievable lawyers. Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a charge, that is the same as if you had gone to trial and been found guilty of that charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving a number of very important rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, now these rights include your right to a trial by jury or by the court, your right to have the prosecution produce evidence and witnesses to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, your right to cross-examine those witnesses, and your right to testify on your own behalf or to remain silent, your right to call witnesses or submit evidence on your behalf. Do you understand those rights as I've just explained?
Yes.
You understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up those rights.
Yes, I do.
All right. Now, a defendant ordinarily retains the right to appeal even after pleading guilty. In this case, however, as a condition of the plea agreement, you are asked to waive your right to appeal. An appeal is a proceeding before another court, and if a defendant cannot afford the cost of an appeal or of a lawyer, the state will bear those costs. On an appeal, the defendant may, normally through his or her lawyer, argue that an error took place in this court, which required a modification or a reversal of the conviction. A reversal would require either new proceedings in this court or dismissal. By waiving your right to appeal, you do not give up your right to take an appeal. But if you take an appeal, you are by this plea, and now separately by this waiver of the right to appeal, giving up the right to have the appellate court consider one's claims of error, including, for example, rulings on evidence, discovery, suppression, and any pretrial motions, and whether this sentence is harsh or excessive and should be modified. You understand that?
Yes, I
And
do.
your attorney's explained this to you?
Yes, he
And
has.
Mr. Brown, may I ask you at this point, are you, with respect to the motion pending,
We're going to withdraw that motion.
application granted?
Thank you.
Are you willing to waive your right to appeal in this case in return for the plea and sentence agreement?
Yes.
Do you waive your right to appeal voluntarily of your own free will?
Yes, I do.
Are you entering this plea bargain voluntarily of your own free will?
Yes, I am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or coerced you into pleading guilty?
No.
Are you under the influence of any drugs, medication, or alcohol right now?
No.
Are you under the influence of any substance which has impaired your ability to think clearly or understand what's going on here today?
No.
You understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving any defenses you may have in this case?
Yes, I do.
Now, do you understand, again, an obvious question, but I have to ask it. Do you understand that as a result of this plea and sentence, you will be convicted of a felony and that such conviction will result in an enhanced sentence if you are convicted of a felony in the future? Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
All right. Mr. Brown, again, another silly question, but have you received a sufficient amount of discovery in this matter?
We certainly have.
And people, have you provided that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
He just asked, the judge just asked him, have you received a sufficient amount of discovery? Remember, Michael Brown was saying in the beginning of this, we received over 5 terabytes of data on a hard drive from District Attorney Ray Tierney's office. That's 83,000 music files, capacity. Can hold 5 terabytes can hold 1,250 full feature-length films and over 160,000 photos, a compiled total of 13 years of evidence. This is what they received.
Now, my promise is to sentence you in a manner that's conditional. At the time of your sentencing, I will be provided with a pre-sentence report and perhaps additional information about you and your alleged involvement in this matter. If after reviewing all the relevant information, I learned something which tells me that I cannot with good conscience keep my promise, I shall permit you to withdraw your plea of guilty, reinstate your plea of not guilty, and the case will proceed to trial. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Additionally, my promise is also conditional on the following things. You must cooperate with the
Lieutenant, quickly, a lot of people are saying this. Stacy Ann Lana says, why the F is this monster smiling? He is being a little, has a little puss and a smug on his face, right? He's smiling a bit.
Yeah, that's just the nature of the beast. All right, that's the nature of the beast. Cockiness. That's his narcissism. All right, as we have seen in so many cases. So yeah, he's smirking and everything because that's just his natural. He probably, just for your viewers to understand, he probably had that same smirk on his face after he committed his evil doings. Right, after he killed all these people and after these poor women had to go through that, he probably had the same smug look on his face. Right, because he's not nervous. He's not nervous at all. This to him is matter of fact. All right, that's it. This is the end of his killing sprees. But yet he knows he goes on because people will be looking this up for decades and many years beyond that to come. And people are going to look at this. The FBI is going to get their shot at him with the behavioral unit to figure him out and compare him to other monsters. All right, other demons that have committed these crimes, crimes like this before, and they just makes them better at identifying demons like this. All right, because he's no way a shape of a human being.
Joe, I think the press conference has just begun. I'm going to cut over to CBS to listen to Ray Tierney as he speaks at the podium. So let's go right
in Suffolk County. He thought that by killing them, he could silence them forever and get away with murder. But he was wrong, because it was these victims, these women, who refused to stay silent. First, that silence was broken by the victims' families, who advocated for their loved ones and agitated for justice. Then the noise grew louder through the ensuing investigation and examination of the evidence that the defendant left at or around the crime scenes, as well as on the bodies of the women themselves, that further told the stories of these victims and what had actually happened to them. It was this evidence that ultimately was put together by the task force that proved to be the defendant's undoing and led to the pleas of guilt in today's court proceeding. And it is in this way that these murders were solved. And while we in law enforcement, as well as our Suffolk County citizens, mourn the loss of these victims, we are also grateful to them and to their families, because without them, this defendant would have never been brought to justice and would still be walking amongst us. And he would still be portraying himself as that same harmless father next door, instead of what he is, a convicted murderer. Ultimately, this case is really about these victims and their stories. It is not about this defendant. And I speak for everyone in law enforcement, and when I say we are honored and thankful for being able to have played a small role in obtaining a small measure of justice for these families. For decades, this case stood out as a painful scar on the face of Suffolk County law enforcement, Suffolk County government, the citizens of Suffolk County, and the victims' families as well. However, with the defendant's pleas of guilt today, it means that for the first time since the deaths of these women, we can turn to all of these same people and say, Rex Heuermann will be held responsible for the 1993 murder of Sandra Castilla, the 1996 murder of Karen Vergata, the 2000 murder of Valerie Mack, the 2003 murder of Jessica Taylor, the 2007 murder of Maureen Brainerd Barnes, the 2009 murder of Melissa Bartholomew, the June 2009 murder of Megan Waterman, and the September 2010 murder of Ms. Costello. Despite this tragedy, there's a lot of different emotions, and I guess the word for today, despite the tragedy, despite all those emotions, is thankfulness. We are thankful. We have a lot to be thankful for, despite these emotions. First and foremost, we are thankful for the victims and the victims' families who told their stories, their loved ones' stories, and defended their loved ones' legacies. Without them, we would have never truly gotten to know those victims. My start in this case occurred before I took office. A homicide detective with the Suffolk County PD, Pat Portella, gave my phone number to Melissa and Amanda. Melissa is, of course, Maureen Brainerd Barnes' sister, and Amanda is Melissa Bartholomew's sister. And they spoke with me. We had a really good phone conversation. And during that phone conversation, I heard the pain and frustration in their voices. They wanted answers. They wanted closure. I told them that we were going to do things differently. It was going to be a new manner of doing things. We were going to form a task force, and we were going to bring all of the talents of all these people standing here to bear, and we were going to work together. We were going to not use this case as a political football to be kicked into the news stream on slow days or whenever it suited the political leader's purpose. We were going to be quiet. We were going to pretend as though it was business as usual in Suffolk County. And the reason why we were going to do that was because we knew what we were doing. We were playing to an audience of one. And that one person, of course, was the murderer. We wanted to lure that individual into a false sense of security. We wanted him to think he got away with this. And that was exactly what we did. And the reason why we wanted to do that is because when we solved this case and we had those arrest warrants and executed those search warrants, we wanted more evidence, and that's exactly what we got. So we were thankful for that. We were thankful we were able to bring this case to a close, but it started, our inspiration was these victims and their families. But those families were so much more to us. Through them, we truly got to know these victims. When we started, the victims were nothing but names on a blotter, black and white, writing on investigative reports. But once we spoke to the victims, they provided us with the color of these women, and we got to know them as the wonderful mothers, sisters, friends, and daughters that they were. And that inspired us even more to close this case, to come to a resolution. So again, first and foremost, we are thankful for those families. And I just want to individually, mention all of the families. The Brainerd Barnes family, I already spoke with Melissa, but I want to thank Melissa and her husband, Chris, and their children. Marie, who is Maureen's mom, Nicolette and Dylan, who are Maureen's two children. We want to thank them for their support, not only of Maureen, but for our investigation as well. And we want to say, on behalf of Suffolk County, we're sorry. The Bartholomew family, Amanda, who's Melissa's sister, Lynn, her mom, and Jeff, Lynn's partner. We want to thank them as well. When this case started, it started with the grand. Well, it didn't start, but the charging started with the grand jury, and Amanda, Lynn, and Melissa came down and helped us with the grand jury. And I remember when Lynn came in, it was about 2-day proceeding. And when Lynn first walked in, she appeared a certain way. And by the end of that second day, she looked completely different. You could see that having forced her to relive this, you could see the sadness in her face and in her eyes. And we're sorry for that. But without their cooperation, we wouldn't be here today. So to Amanda, Lynn, Jeff, and everyone in the Bartholomew family, we want to say thank you. And we want to say we're sorry. To the Waterman family, we have Megan's aunt, Liz, and we have her daughter, Lily. We want to thank them. We didn't get to know them until after the indictment. But again, the way that they stood by Megan and the way they supported us, we want to say to them, thank you, and we're sorry. To Amber Costello and her family, specifically Amber's sister Kim, we want to say thank you. And again, thank you for the support. And again, we're sorry for the loss of Amber. Valerie Mack, we met shortly before the indictment. We met Ed and Joanne Mack. Ed and Joanne Mack were foster parents and then the adopted parents of Valerie. And they gave Valerie the only happy home she ever knew. And really the only support she probably ever knew in her life. Meeting with them, they're incredibly special people. They're heroes. We also got to know Valerie's sister Angela and her son Aaron. Again, equally wonderful people. So to them, we want to say thank you, and we're sorry. Jessica Taylor, we got to know Jessica's mom, Liz, after the indictment. Prior to the indictment, we got to know Jessica's cousin, Jasmine. And right after the initial indictment of the first 3 victims, Jasmine came to us on behalf of Liz and said, please help us. Please find out what happened to Jessica. And at that time, we didn't have enough. And we said, look, we're going to work and we're going to try to get there. And we're going to work as hard as we can. Please trust us. And, Jasmine, on behalf of Liz, said they would do just that. So to Jasmine and Liz, I want to say thank you. And again, we're sorry. To the Vergata family, Karen Vergata, We recently went, I did, I mean, I know members of the Suffolk County PD had already spoken to the family, but my team recently went and we saw Eric and Gary, who were Karen's sons. Gary's not here today, but we got to meet Gary, and I know Gary's watching, so we want to say hello to Gary. Eric's here. We want to thank Eric, and again, we want to thank you and tell them how much we admire them for supporting their mom and for supporting us. And again, we want to say we're sorry on behalf of all of Suffolk County. We're sorry for Karen's passing. The Castilla family, Cassandra Castilla. We had the opportunity shortly before the indictment to meet with Ariel, who's the husband of Ruth, and Ruth is Sandra's sister. Again, wonderful people who really stood by and supported Sandra. So we want to thank them for that. We want to thank them for their support of our investigation. And on behalf of Suffolk County, we want to tell them we're sorry. We're sorry. So that's the family. Again, they inspired us. They're the reason why we do what we do. Today was a very special day for us in law enforcement because it gave us the opportunity to turn to these victims and their families and say, listen, we told you we were going to work really hard. We told you we were going to do everything we can to bring closure to you. And that's why we work in law enforcement. And, we were able to do that to a small measure today. So we're happy for that. And again, so thankful for them. In addition to our victims' families, we have our law enforcement family. And, this case was, brought home by a task force that brought to bear the talents of a number of really great investigators from a lot of really great agencies. And again, so thankful to be able to have worked with so many talented people. It's not really, some people will say, well, this person solved Gilgo or that person solved Gilgo. That's not it at all. It was so many different pieces from so many different people, starting back in 1993 and culminating all the way through 2021. So again, and really beyond actually. So again, so thankful for the great work. First and foremost, I have to thank my chief investigator, Rich Zacharies. I've been doing this for 30 years. I've had the benefit of working with truly the best investigators in the country and in the world. Rich is the finest investigator I've ever worked for and worked with. I do sometimes feel as though I work for him. But he was the architect of our grand jury. He put together our grand jury. And I think there's, whether it's an attorney or an investigator, I think there are very few people who could have done that logistically. And so to Rich, I want to say thank you. To our detective investigators, our analysts, again, all great. And I'm gonna mention a lot of people, and it's gonna, because it's not exciting to mention a lot of people, but they deserve mention. So I'm gonna mention them. We're gonna go through everyone, but not everyone, but a lot of people. We're gonna talk about our phone experts, Justin Doolittle and John Primiano. Unbelievable work in this case and so many others. Our analysts, Kaylee Homer, Aaron Hansen, unbelievable work combing through this evidence, these miles of evidence. And that's just to name a few. They're indicative of so many more. Our law enforcement partners, we had our DA people, our PD, our FBI, our New York State Police, our Suffolk County Sheriff's Office, our core people, Rory Forrestall, a DI. I hired Rory. He was supposed to come in and help us with our child abuse section, but he got waylaid in here, and he worked like heck for us and did a great job. We're so thankful for Rory. For Suffolk County PD, our homicide guys who are still with the task force today, Chris Calvaca and Scott Aquilina. great individuals, great investigators. Thank you so much, Chris, Scott. We had Jimmy Watson, who worked with us, no longer with us. He's in Nassau. FBI agent Craig Mateo, Special Agent Craig Mateo. Everybody's young, I guess, compared to me, but I see him as a young guy, really talented agent, really great guy, really, really helpful. Investigator Tiffany Atai with the state police. Again, along with Rory, Aaron, and Kaylee, really, plunged into the evidence in this case and really helped us out. She was also the one who did the infamous avalanche search. So we want to thank Tiffany for all of the work and all the work that they all did. We have a number of retired task force and former law enforcement officers with us today. We invited them, and saw John Santoro, I saw Donna Giordano, Pat Albergo, just to name a few. And we wanted to invite those retired members because, again,
Joe, did he mention retired homicide Lieutenant Commander Chris Byers, I believe his name was? Wasn't he instrumental behind this? I didn't hear him mention him.
He may not have mentioned him because a lot of people don't want to be mentioned. A lot of people don't want to get mentioned on this.
Former Police Commissioner Rodney Harrison today, just maybe an hour ago, mentioned how instrumental Lieutenant Byers was in making this case move forward.
It goes way before that too, Ron, way before that.
Got it. Okay.
And, there was a lot of talk about this case, a lot of talk about, no one cared about the women, who were murdered in this case. That nothing could be further from the truth. I'll talk about Pat Alberga. He worked Jessica Taylor's case. He retired. When we had brought enough evidence to bring that case together, we called Pat. And he came to help us testify. Actually, he and Donna Giordano testified for us. But when Pat Albergo, who's retired, came in, he sort of walked through the door like a kid, like a little kid walking down the stairs during Christmas. And he's like, "Why am I here?" And I'm like, "Because we're going to charge this case." He was thrilled, and that attitude is indicative of every single one of all these agencies. So grateful to work with all of these people, both past and present. Our ADAs, Nick Santamartino, Andrew Lee, Michelle Haddad, Larry Opizo, God help them, right? They get to know what I'm really like. And so they were with us right from the very beginning, through the grand jury, and through today. Great job by them. I want to thank them. My chief assistant, Alan Bodie, he really, along with Rich and we really thought a lot about how we were going to go forward with this case and planned a lot of things, from the grand jury. And he was really helpful with that. And also, he ran the office while I was running around pretending to be a lawyer. Our discovery expediters, our analysts, our paralegals, everyone. And that's just us. So now, we come to the Suffolk County PD, and, I'll talk a lot about Suffolk County PD was, with us every step of the way. Our police commissioner Catalina, our chief of department, Bill Dougherty, our chief detective, Sean Barron, a whole host of other people are with us today. We have our Suffolk County sheriff, Errol Toulon with us, as well as Undersheriff Kevin Heavey, as well as Undersheriff John Becker. We really want to thank those two agencies. We want to thank Errol Toulon, and we want to thank Police Commissioner Catalina. They're two phenomenal partners. I can say this about Suffolk County and Suffolk County citizens when it comes to Police Commissioner Catalina and Sheriff Toulon. You are all in wonderful company. In addition, with regard to our sheriff's department, They provided logistics and traffic and sex trafficking related intel throughout our interviews, helped us to identify a lot of potential interviews of inmates and other people who had been sex trafficked. So we want to thank Suffolk County Sheriff for that. With regard, we also have the FBI here. We have Special Agent in Charge Michael Raffa, who's the FBI New York Criminal Division. So Special Agent in Charge Raffa is in charge of the criminal division of the FBI in New York State. We want to thank Michael for coming in. We want to thank Supervisory Senior Resident Agent Don Osbacher, who's been with us from the very beginning. We want to thank them for lending us their expertise, and more importantly, their people. The cell phone analysis that we all heard about, that was done by the CAST, or cellular. The FBI CAST stands for Cellular Analysis Survey Team, and specifically Special Agents Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. Really unbelievable work by them. Eric, he provided the drive time records, so those boxes, those areas of interest in Manhattan and in Massapequa Park. That was developed because in 2011, Eric Perry drove with equipment through every single neighborhood and extensively mapped the cell phone coverage in those areas and allowed us with specificity to be able to develop these areas of interest. That had to be done in 2011. The landscape changed, the cell sites changed, after Superstorm Sandy, the geography changed. So, we went back to 2011, and that work that Eric did, and just phenomenal. So we want to thank
I got to stop it because some people might not, because he is, of course, given a lot of kudos to the team, and everybody's here for the the investigative work, boss. But what he just said that the FBI CAST team did, and he broke down the acronym, is truly amazing, because in 2023, they went all the way back to 2010 and 2011, and they retraced every step that Rex Heuermann took as he disposed of bodies and as he traversed from his home in Massapequa Park to the city and back. And that was also done on the Long Island Railroad. But these FBI agents went with their equipment and drove all those routes. And as he said, with Superstorm Sandy, parts of the parkway out there by Gilgo Beach were underwater. It didn't change completely the landscape, but it did move land, and it moved the shoreline and so forth. So that to me is that's amazing technology right there. The CAST team and the FBI, the state police. Don't forget, it was a female investigator who was responsible for identifying Rex Heuermann's truck. The female investigator from the state police was instrumental in identifying that Chevy Avalanche. And shout out to, obviously, Shannon Gilbert, who was a victim here. And if it wasn't for her, and her mother was a great advocate, but if it wasn't for Shannon Gilbert, they would have never found these remains. I don't think they would have ever found the remains, and Rex Heuermann would have gotten pretty much away scot-free. So all the credit goes, obviously, to Shannon Gilbert. She's deceased, and we don't know who murdered her, and there's nobody taken into custody for that. And people are saying it's Rex. Some people are saying it's Jimmy Burke, former Suffolk County chief. But that, I had to stop it there, because that's amazing detective work. That's forensics at its best. Going back,
right, it was.
Yeah, going back all the way back to 2011. Unbelievable.
FBI, we want to thank Eric Perry and Mike Sabrick. They both created maps for us to use in the grand jury. They testified in the grand jury, as well as John Primiano from my office with the help of Justin Doolittle, and just great work. With regard to forensics in this case, I think I'd said earlier that IGG investigative genetic genealogy did not play a role in this case. I was wrong. I had forgotten that IgG was used to identify victim Valerie Mack prior to my involvement in the case. So I want to thank the FBI and Lori Giordano for that. They also, with us, helped to identify Karen Vergata. So again, thank you. FBI, they provided surveillance of the defendant, both in the city and on Long Island, and their surveillance team. I was nervous. I had never met these guys. I had worked with them as a federal prosecutor, but that was a high risk, high reward thing. If they get made, everything comes down. If they get detected, but they weren't detected. Not only did they follow the defendant, but they recovered the abandonment samples. So we want to thank them. Suffolk County PD, they recovered DNA from the defendant's house. We want to thank the homicide squad for that. And again, working together, we were able to really develop that DNA evidence. So we want to thank them. We provided, the FBI provided a searchable account, digitalized this entire file for us. So we want to thank the FBI for that. New York State Police. Today we have Major Chris Casal, who's the troop commander of Troop L. We have Captain Chris Jean, who works in Troop L as well. Again, they provided Tiffany Atai to our task force, who was integral to our success. They provide.
That's the female state trooper, Joe. He just alluded to, Tiffany Tai. She's the one who was, total right on it. She identified that Chevy Avalanche, and that was really key. So shout out to District Attorney Tierney for shouting out all who were involved in cracking this case and breaking it open. Girl power to the 10th degree right there.
Assistance to search warrants, of all the search warrants with regard to our success. The troop commander of Troop L, we have Captain Chris Jean, who works in Troop L as well. Again, they provided Tiffany Atai to our task force, who was integral to our success. They provided assistance to search warrants, of all the search warrants with regard to this case in all the various locations. They were on the scene with our Suffolk County Police Department gathering evidence. They transported evidence from the house to Suffolk County property, along again with Suffolk County PD. The Avalanche truck, they transported from South Carolina to our lab. There was a Ram Charger from Pennsylvania that was associated with the Sandra Castilla case. State troopers took that from Pennsylvania, brought it to our lab. We were able to develop evidence linking that truck to the murder of Karen Vergata. We want to thank them. They provided us with K-9 units along with the NYPD, Suffolk County PD. I want to thank all of those agencies. I want to thank Nassau for helping us with the search warrant. I want to thank Nassau County DA's office for helping us with the prosecution of the weapons case. Our Suffolk County Crime Lab, we want to thank them. Tremendous work. I particularly, is Clyde here? Where's Clyde? Clyde, raise your hand. Where's Clyde? All right, Clyde's all the way in the back as usual, hiding. So Clyde was the hair analyst in this case. He collected hairs from all the victims in this case, save for Jessica Taylor. And he pushed the PD and he pushed our office to send certain hairs out for mitochondrial and then later nuclear DNA testing. And when we started this case, he was working with Nick Santomartino in my office, and he was recalling with great specificity certain hairs of interest that he thought were really going to bear fruit. And I was talking to Nick, and I was saying, does this guy really, was he this meticulous? Is he this sure? And so Nick said, sit down with him, sit down with Clyde. And we sat down with Clyde, and, to go to a crime scene, in the 2000s and not have the capability to get nuclear DNA, but yet to be so precise and exact in gathering evidence, cataloging the evidence, safeguarding the evidence, and then being able to advocate for its use. Without Clyde, we probably wouldn't have gotten that evidence. So, Clyde's retired now, but we really want to thank Clyde. Bob Jenna, he collected hairs on the Castilla case. He recovered 2 hair. He was a former chief of Suffolk County Crime Lab. He's retired. He collected 2 hairs on Sandra Castilla. Did a great job, similar to Clyde. Don Doler, the former chief, he was the chief of the lab when we started this. Great job. We want to thank him. Connie Dinkle is the current chief of the lab, and she did a great job and continues to do a great job. We want to thank them. Bob Bauman, Helen Wong, Liz Sepulveda, Kerry Anito, Craig Hamer. All of these forensic scientists did a fantastic job, and we want to thank them. Again, they were in the house with our law enforcement partners, gathering this evidence meticulously, precisely, and without. I was thinking about this. This isn't a cast of hundreds. When you look at when you bring all this together, it's a cast of thousands. So we want to thank all of those individuals. Office of Chief Medical Examiner, City of New York, Brad Adams, Mark Desire, and Neha Desai. Brad Adams was the anthropologist. He identified the Gilgo 4 and he was the one who urged investigators to go back after the discovery of Melissa Barthelemy, which resulted in the discovery of the 3 other victims known as the Gilgo 4. Mark Desire is the assistant director of biology of the lab. He was our liaison. He made all of his people available to us. Ms. Desai, she testified for us in the grand jury. Her DNA analysis led to the identification of the Gilgo Beach 4. Again,
hey, boss, I want to stop it just for a second and put us on because I want the folks in the audience to know that what Ray Tierney just said here is that they relied on the New York City Medical Examiner's Office, the forensic anthropologist, that Ed Wallace, he worked in that office, the forensic scientists to make identification of the Gilgo 4. Those are the original 4 that sets of remains that they came across. So in the early stages of this process, and I talked to Barbara Butcher, who worked for Dr. Hirsch, may he rest in peace, the chief medical examiner of New York City. Had it not been a partnership with Suffolk County and all the way into New York City, they lent tons of resources and tons of man and women hours to this investigation. Talk about that collaboration as a former lieutenant commander of a squad, how important that is, Joe.
Oh, it's crucial in an investigation like this. When you have that kind of cooperation, just the fact that you can go to these resources and they're going to open their doors for you, without question, that helps out because they know where to go for something. And the way Tierney laid this case out is amazing. You'll see him read off of stuff and everything, but the viewers understand that when you see him going through things and going just off of memory, how many people are tied into this and how he knows what each person's part was. That's how meticulous this man is with this case. Not only this, he's been a prosecutor for 30 years. I mean, he's unbelievable. And I have to keep pushing accolades for him because he's that good. But he knows where he has to go, being in this game so long. The police department, he'll listen to a detective saying, "Hey, what do you think about this?" He'll take it into consideration. He'll go with it and say, "This is good." We all do that. But when you have the resources available to you, and then you know how to use the resources and when you're going to need them, that's paramount, especially in a landmark case like this. This is an unbelievable case.
Yeah, boss. He said he sat down with the hair and fibers expert and sat with the detective and really talked to him. That's you don't really get many district attorneys. They use all their chiefs, the chief DAs that are in the chief, the lead of the homicide unit. They go out and deal. Not you rarely see the actual district attorney. This is an elected position, by the way, an elected official go out and sit and dig and roll his sleeves up and get into it. Yeah, I could argue with many he's not the greatest of speakers. I'm not the greatest of speakers either. I suck at public speaking. But at the
I
end,
wouldn't care if he was Elmer Fudd speaking over there.
yeah,
The man's
no.
got the knowledge and he got the job done. And who cares? You know why? Because he speaks from the heart. He
Yeah.
doesn't read from a script. And I think that's the best way to go out there because it shows how real he is, that he's not reading off a teleprompter. He's reading from notes and probably handwritten notes to get everybody in there. But you know what? This man does his job and he's just like the boots. He is boots on the ground, from the ground all the way up to the top. And he takes advice from everybody. Why? Because that's what a good DA does. This man, I'm telling you right now, he's probably the best district attorney I've ever seen.
And Joe, I could say this, if you compare the previous district attorneys in Suffolk County who really just threw this case to the side and basically said, "Oh, these are a bunch of sex workers. They're found dumped along the parkway here, along Gilgo, and we're just gonna." I'm not saying they tossed the case, but they made it like it was a cold case and there was really nothing going on. But at the end of the day, when he came in, that's what he campaigned on. He said, "We're going to solve this case." And remember Geraldine Hart, the former FBI director or lead from the New York office, she became police commissioner. And then they had the belt with the Heuermann initials from his grandfather on that belt. That's when things really started moving. And then Rodney Harrison came in and he really took the horse by the reins and he ran with it.
So just stop right there for a second. And why did he do that? Let's not forget, he was chief of detectives in the NYPD. He was a detective in the NYPD. All right. He's another guy that I really admire because he knows what he's talking about. He's been there. He's done that. And you and I know, unless you have been there and done that in some capacity, when you lend, opinions to these cases, all right, you better know what you're talking about, and he does. And
Yeah.
he's very eloquent the way he puts it out there. Channel 2's got a good man working for them. That's all I can tell you with Rodney Harrison. So.
Absolutely, 100%. And that's really a key element here is because he was not only, he started as a cop and worked his way up to the rank of chief. He went through all the ranks and he was a detective. He worked in the squad. He did these cases. And when he came out to Suffolk, I felt really good. And when the new county executive took over and they said that he was going to go, Ed and I did a full several shows about it and how we were so disheartened by it. But that's how it goes. A new mayor comes in, the county executive is like the equivalent of a mayor. They come in and they like to take out people if someone doesn't agree with them. We don't know what the politics were behind it, but they took him out when he shouldn't have been taken out and replaced him with some old timer that in my eyes is not the greatest police chief. But at the end of the day, let's listen to the rest of this and hopefully we'll get to some questions.
I want to give my opinion about the new guy that's there too. So
okay, good. And they went through a couple. This isn't the first choice. There was isn't it one or two?
they were just temporary. This is the one that's there now, Kevin Catalina.
Yeah,
Came from the NYPD. I know him personally. Another great guy, boots on the ground guy, and that's what you need. And this is such a cohesive unit that they have going right now, and they have the interagency going on there. You have to love it. It's a good time to be a detective or a cop working under these conditions.
The guy that they put in before Catalina was a 38-year veteran of Suffolk County Police Department. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, that's not a good choice. So I'm glad that they got this guy. Let's listen to the rest of
She
this.
testified in the grand jury, a fantastic job. Our outside experts, Mitotyping Technologies, Gloria Dimmick and Jenna Manges. Gloria testified first in the grand jury. fantastic scientist, fantastic person. Astria Forensic, Dr. Ed Green, Dr. Christina Valencia, Kelly Harkins Kincaid. Those scientists with Astria are at the very top of their field, and they did something revolutionary in this case, and they've set the bar high going forward, and we're going to be able to utilize this technology going forward to solve a great many cases. So we want to thank Astrea Forensics, and I want to tell you, if you think you're smart, you should spend a week with Dr. Green, and then suddenly you realize maybe you're not as smart as you think you are. At least that's the sense I got after spending time with all those great scientists. NYPD, again, they helped us with the cadaver search in April of 2025. We had individuals from their TARU unit testify in the grand jury with regard to phone calls made by the defendant. They helped us to attain records, missing person records involving in this case, spanning back years and years. Again, at a drop of a hat, even though it wasn't their case, they came in and helped us. Scarborough Police Department, with regard to Megan Waterman. The Megan Waterman case came in as a missing person case, and it went across the desk of a detective, Don Blatchford, who's here with us today. And Don, gathered the evidence and really did everything he could to try to locate Megan. And when the trail took him to Suffolk County, he didn't stop. He continued to help us in our investigation. He brought the Waterman family to Long Island for interviews and for court proceedings. He testified in the grand jury, and he's had a long, illustrious career in Maine. He's going to retire, but he held off his retirement to see this case through. And again, I talked about the Suffolk County PD guys who cared about these victims. Don Blatchford is another individual who cares about these victims, like all of the people in law enforcement. So we want to thank them. United States Secret Service, with the massive digital evidence in this case and their forensic science division, all of the massive amount of digital evidence, they helped us process it. We had their forensic science division, we recovered a Bounty paper towel off of the crime scene of Megan Waterman. They processed that and they compared that to the same Bounty towel that we recovered in the home of the defendant. They matched, and this was a memento that we argued the defendant kept. Was a key would have been a key piece of evidence. So we want to thank the Secret Service for that. The telephone carriers, Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, Nextel, and AT&T. Again, phone records spanning back to 1993. We've got to get those records and evidence. Again, Rich Zachary's was integral in this, but they went above and beyond they went above and beyond for us because they knew this case was important. We want to thank them. With regard to the court staff, Judge Mazie and his staff, I want to thank them for their courtesies, and I want to thank them for all that they did in their professionalism. And this is a difficult case, and they handled it with aplomb. So, I'm going to turn it over to our partners, but just to clarify regarding the plea of guilt, the defendant has pled guilty to 3 counts of murder in the first degree pertaining to the murders of Melissa Barthelemy, Megan Waterman, and Amber Costello. And all of those 3 individuals were killed within 18 months between July of 2009 and September of 2010. That enabled us, the proximity of those murders enabled us to charge those 3 murder 1 counts. In addition to the sentences of that is life without the possibility of parole. With regard to the other 4 victims, they pled guilty to 4 counts of murder in the second degree. That's Sandra Castilla, Maureen Brainerd Barnes, Valerie Mack, and Jessica Taylor. Those sentences, 25 to life to run consecutive to each other and to the murder 1 charges. This defendant has additionally agreed to accept responsibility for the murder of Karen Vergata. And again, the sentence will be 25 years to life without the possibility of parole on the first 3 and 25 to life on the last 4, all of which is going to run consecutive. So we have 3 life without parole sentences and 4 25 to life sentences, all to run consecutive. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to our law enforcement partners. So I'm just going to leave with this. This case closes and another one opens. There are still, bodies on that beach. There are still bodies in Suffolk County. There's no rest for the weary. We are going to continue to work with our partners and to try to obtain closure for as many families as we can. Thank you very much, and we're going to call up Police Commissioner Catalina.
Joe, did he say there's still bodies on the beach and still bodies out in Suffolk County?
He sure did.
That means the answer to the questions in the chat. Many questions that I know you were scanning the chat.
I'm watching it.
Yeah. A lot of people are asking, is there more victims? And many agree. And you and I both, I know we're on the same page. There is definitely, not just here on Long Island, across the United States. And he traveled to his wife's home country.
And to answer the other part of that, and that's when it becomes federal.
Yeah, absolutely. You kill somebody in Vegas and you travel back to New York, even if you have that dual ownership in different places, it makes it a federal crime. We talked about it on the first live stream that I did today. But yeah, he's going to be entered into CODIS. His DNA they have already. They'll swab him again officially once he's sentenced. They'll take the DNA, his fingerprints. It'll be entered into CODIS. And if there's any other matches across the United States or outside, we'll be hearing more about Rex Heuermann. And I could say this, and I would bet my pension on it. We are going to be hearing more about Rex Heuermann.
Yeah, I think we'll address that later on as you planned. But I have to tell you, people should realize that this Gilgo area is in comparison right now to the landfill over in Brooklyn. The landfill that's over in Brooklyn over there, Fountain Avenue. So, how many bodies are buried over there between the Gemini twins and everybody else. So when you get a common dumping grounds where they don't think anybody's going to look, and then all somebody does look, and you nailed something else when you said how the geographical dynamics of Gilgo Beach changed after Sandy. It's not only Sandy, it's just wind conditions, everything else. But it does leave traces over there still, and they will be finding more because people are curious and people are going to go over there.
Message agreed, boss. I believe the police commissioner, this is him.
Yes,
Kevin Catalina at the podium. I never heard him speak, so let's take a listen. This is a former NYPD guy.
Thank you, District Attorney Tierney. The calm, serene, almost grandfatherly image that Rex Heuermann portrayed since his arrest was a lie. And quite frankly, an insult to both law enforcement, but more importantly, the families that had to endure that during every court appearance over the last 2.5 years. Today, he was exposed for exactly what he is, a sadistic, soulless, murderous monster. And thankfully, everybody today got to see that.
Suffolk County officials speaking at a press conference on the day that Rex Heuermann has pleaded guilty to 7 murders, the Gilgo Beach murders. In addition, has taken responsibility for an 8th murder. We just heard he's...
God damn it, they cut him off. I really wanted to hear him talk, and he was speaking real well.
He's good. You would like him. I know him personally. He's a great guy. He really is. And he's all for the men and women out there. He's, very good. He challenges them when they have to be challenged, but he supports them. He supports all his counterparts out there. Errol Toulon, the sheriff, another great guy.
Yeah.
Politics doesn't come into play with these guys. They're out there. They have a job to do, and they do it. The sheriff plays hockey on the hockey team. He's a good hockey player. Wow. He loves his hockey. He loves his men and women. It's a cohesive law enforcement community out here that I love, and they bring the NYPD into it. I mean, we got some guys, that call NYPD guys cowboys and everything, and I challenge them as well, but because they never worked in the city, so they wouldn't have a clue as to what we go through over there. But
Right.
that put aside, this is a great unit, and I'm very proud of the work that was done here today. And knowing them makes me even prouder because I saw this from the time they took it on, and I was, privy to things, to hear things and everything that I would never mention. But you want to know something? I didn't have to. The DA took care of it all.
Bingo. Yeah. Yeah. And with all the previous missteps as this pertains to the handling of the Long Island serial killer case, Rex Heuermann, it put a real dark stain on not only law enforcement, but the district attorney's office in Suffolk County. And a lot of the residents lost faith. And there's probably a lot of them watching right now or watching on the replay. But with this new surgence of good law enforcers, including the district attorney, I think good things. I want to hear what Rodney Harrison had to say. Of course, he wasn't mentioned at all at this press conference, and he should have been. I don't know why. I don't have any inside information on that, but you can just gleam at why perhaps maybe he wasn't, but he should have been. So let's hear what he has to say. He's talking as a professional talking head here now.
I have my own thoughts about that too.
All right. I'd like to hear him.
For legal analysis, trial attorney Richard Schoenstein. Ronnie, to you, first of all, you lived this case, certainly the end of the case. What are your feelings today?
There's a level of joy, but it's also a little bit of bittersweet because once again, we have 8 victims that have lost their life to a senseless type of crime, to a psychopath who brutally murdered them. But this case took too long to come to this point, and I'm just glad that we were able to come together with a partnership with the law enforcement organizations and bring somebody to justice and hold them accountable through the judicial process. So, in the line of work of law enforcement and doing investigations, you never want to ever see anybody hurt. You never want to see anybody killed. But just being able to identify somebody and make sure that they'll never see the light of day again makes us a good day.
Yeah, I mean, these families, you can only imagine their pain. This has gone on for decades. 1993, Amber Costello later in the 2000s. I mean, it just went on and on and on, ending in 2010 before ultimately there was a finding, there was a breakthrough. A lot of people are saying, what took so long?
Well, let's look at this. It's 17 years, 8 bodies that we know of. Through that time frame, he was a calculated killer. The way he dismembered bodies, the way he dumped these victims all over Long Island made the investigation very, very difficult. Did the investigators, starting back in 2010 when the first body was discovered on Ocean Parkway, could they have done a better job? You can always second guess. Homicide investigations are not easily solved. I want to believe that there was some good work in the beginning of the investigation, but unfortunately, sometimes what you see with serial killer cases, they get put in the back burner. So the creation of the task force and putting this on a front burner, and I got to make sure that Steve Malone, the county executive who brought me in to rejuvenate this investigation, gets his accolades. I want to make sure that Kevin Byer, that oversaw the task force, he gets the credit that he deserves for regarding putting a team together and identifying a person of interest, ended up being Rex Heuermann.
I gotta say, again, I'm looking at this from a reporter's perspective. Rodney Harrison just said something that was very important, that Malone, the former county executive, got 0 credit at this press conference. He, as the former police commissioner, got 0 credit or acknowledgement. That's, for me, a problem, because what would it take for the district attorney or maybe the police commissioner that jumped in gave acknowledgement? I don't know. It got cut off. But
do Do you want my opinion on that?
Just let me. Yes, absolutely. And what I'm saying here is that they did hard work. They worked on this case. They were there when this case broke, and to just completely keep them out, to me, this is my opinion, was just in bad taste. But go ahead, Joe. I'd like to hear it.
Okay, so you have Balone, who's tied into a very dark part of this case, which is Spoda and Burke. Okay, a lot of things going on there still. People are still questioning it, and the thing is, until you can prove something, all you can do is speculate. So let everybody keep speculating. The problem is when you bring in, and Rodney came in at a critical time where he kept the ball rolling. Now, that's the thing, keeping the ball rolling, keeping the train on track. That train was on track from the original investigation until it was derailed. All right. And who derailed it was Spoda. And why did he derail it? Because he denied them going up on wires for certain things. All right. He denied that, he stymied that investigation. All right. Now Rodney comes in and Balone brings him in, which was a great thing to bring him in because he has the background for it, gets the ball rolling, then he leaves, and then they keep going on. So what Ray Tierney did was focus on the investigation from when he took it over. All right. He can only speculate on certain other things, but his job from that point on is to bring in everybody who's going to make it work from that point. And that's what he did. Rodney should have been mentioned. You could have been mentioned, but they chose not to mention, maybe for a reason, but it's not it's not for incompetence by any means. All right. He left. He went on to bigger and better things. They brought in other people along the way, and now they have Kevin Catalina there, which he's a great guy, and I love him being in that position because the troops love him as well. But understand, you don't want to taint this with what could have been done. You want to go on what was done once they got the ball rolling again. And let me tell you something. That went from a snowball into a giant avalanche, and they did a great job with it. So, coulda, shoulda, woulda does apply here, but when you stymie an investigation to the degree it was, and you have to start from square one with the evidence that you have, and you have the competent people that want to go on, and you got people coming back from the past,
Right.
helping out with the case, that's crucial. All right, because as cops, as investigators, we want the bottom line is justice for the families.
110%. And I get it. And I appreciate that explanation. Again, we don't really have insight, or at least I don't have any insight to why this is all occurred and the lack of acknowledgments. And I get about Balone. There's a lot of dirty or laundry out there on that guy. But at the end of the day, Rodney Harrison came in here Balone called him in. He said he got appointed by Balone, but he came in, and I feel like he kicked ass and took names, and to completely keep him out of the conversation or the acknowledgments, I thought was in bad taste. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, and you're right though, but I don't know Rodney moved on and did something else. I don't know what the circumstances why he left.
They let him go, boss. They let him go,
and it's like he's it's not like I said, it's not for incompetence or anything, but when you have something of this magnitude that's never been done before like this. And he did bring up a very good point, Rodney, about how cases go into cold cases because they don't realize they're dealing with a serial killer.
Yes.
All right. And now you realize you're dealing with a serial killer. And believe me, this case is far from over for everybody listening. This case is far from over. There's a lot of things are going to start coming into play now that are going to say, oh, look at this. It ties into Rex, or it ties into somebody else. Don't forget, there was another arrest made for bodies that were found over there. So,
right. When he gets entered into CODIS, Ed talked about that last night. And as soon as he's sentenced, then they take him and they take charge, and the judge says take charge and sentence imposed. Boom. Again, fingerprints, DNA, again, they go through that whole thing, and then they put him into CODIS. So if there's any unsolved crimes and there's DNA collected from the crime scene, boom.
One of the remarks, Ron, that was on there, somebody typed in about no justice for Gilbert. You're right, there is, because if it wasn't for her, all right, they wouldn't be where they are today with pushing it. And if it wasn't for people recognizing that these weren't just, now a lot of the mind frame for years ago, they're sex workers, who cares? when you start putting families and faces of the families with the victims, and you realize that somebody's, like Ray said, daughter, granddaughter, sister, it's so many different components of that they're victims. No matter how you look at them, they're victims of brutal crimes. And I could care less what they all had the same common denominator of being sex workers, and you don't know the background for it. Look at one mom trying to feed her kids. What mom wouldn't do something to feed their kids, right? When you look at them as human beings and as victims, it puts a whole new light on it. And it's a driving force behind cops to go out and solve it even more. And when you have everybody in that same driving force, this is the end result.
And I feel, Joe, that Shannon Gilbert successfully solved 8 homicides. She's the 9th. She was murdered. We don't know who murdered her. We can speculate who was behind it, but at the end of the day, she was murdered. It was not classified as a murder. It was classified as an accident, that she drowned in those thickets that she was in that marshy area. But she solved 8 of Rex Heuermann's murders by having her life taken. So let's listen. How many of the folks in the audience want to hear? There's only like 2 minutes or 3 minutes of Rex Heuermann. We cut away to go to that lengthy press conference. We cut away from Rex Heuermann. We didn't get a chance to hear him actually say, yes, I strangled a victim A. I strangled. So he goes. Let's take a listen to it. I think everybody wants to hear it. Look, people, Lexi is already putting a 1 in the chat because she knows that I'm going to say, if you want to hear it, put a 1 in the chat. So Lexi's been around a long time and a moderator. She's ahead of me before I even say it. So let's listen to it, and we'll come back and take some questions, and we'll wrap up. Joe, thank you also for being patient and hanging out here. You could put in a overtime slip. I'll sign it.
There you go.
Good. That's it. Thank you. Judge, that's our understanding, and we join the application.
Thank you. Mr. Heuermann, before I swear you in, the elocution is taken. I have some questions to ask of you. They're obvious and simple questions, but I have to ask them. Okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
How old are you?
62.
Do you read and write English?
Yes.
Have you discussed this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
Have you had enough time to discuss this case with your attorney?
Yes, I have.
After discussions with your lawyer, you feel it's in your best interest to plead guilty rather than go to trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the manner in which your attorneys represented you in this case?
Yes, I am.
I must say that the attorneys on both sides of this case have been excellent, unbelievable lawyers. Do you understand that by pleading guilty to a charge, that is the same as if you had gone to trial and been found guilty of that charge?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving a number of very important rights?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, now these rights include your right to a trial by jury or by the court, your right to have the prosecution produce evidence and witnesses to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, your right to cross-examine those witnesses, and your right to testify on your own behalf or to remain silent, your right to call witnesses or submit evidence on your behalf. Do you understand those rights as I've just explained?
Yes.
Do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up those rights?
Yes, I do.
All right, now a defendant ordinarily retains the right to appeal even after pleading guilty. In this case, however, as a condition of the plea agreement, you are asked to waive your right to appeal. An appeal is a proceeding before another court, and if a defendant cannot afford the cost of an appeal or of a lawyer, the state will bear those costs. On an appeal, a defendant may, normally through his or her lawyer, argue that an error took place in this court, which required a modification or a reversal of the conviction. A reversal would require either new proceedings in this court or a dismissal. By waiving your right to appeal, you do not give up your right to take an appeal. But if you take an appeal, you are by this plea, and now separately by this waiver of the right to appeal, giving up the right to have the appellate court consider most claims of error, including, for example, rulings on evidence, discovery, suppression, and any pretrial motions, and whether this sentence is harsh or excessive and should be modified. You understand that?
Yes, I
Have
do.
your attorneys explained this to you?
Yes, he
And
has.
Mr. Brown, I ask you at this point, are you, with respect to the motion pending,
We're going to withdraw that motion.
application granted?
Thank you.
Are you willing to waive your right to appeal in this case in return for the plea and sentence agreement?
Yes.
Do you waive your right to appeal voluntarily of your own free will?
Yes, I do.
Or are you entering this plea bargain voluntarily of your own?
All right, so I'll stop it there because this is for the folks who were questioning whether he can appeal or not. The judge was very clear and concise that he cannot appeal this sentence. So when he gets sentenced, part of the deal is that he cannot appeal. And he's going through that right here in court. And this is what we missed live, but we're fortunate enough to listen to this back on replay.
Free will.
Yes, I am.
Has anyone forced, threatened, or coerced you into pleading guilty?
No.
Are you under the influence of any drugs, medication, or alcohol right now?
No.
Are you under the influence of any substance which has impaired your ability to think clearly or understand what's going on here today?
No.
You understand that by pleading guilty, you're waiving any defenses you may have in this case?
Yes, I do.
Now, do you understand, again, an obvious question, but I have to ask it. Do you understand that as a result of this plea and sentence, you will be convicted of a felony and that such conviction will result in an enhanced sentence if you are convicted of a felony in the future? Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
All right. Mr. Brown, again, another silly question, but have you received a sufficient amount of discovery in this matter?
We certainly have.
The people, have you provided that?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. Now, my promise is to sentence you in a manner that is conditional. At the time of your sentencing, I will be provided with a pre-sentence report and perhaps additional information about you and your alleged involvement in this matter. If after reviewing all the relevant information, I learned something which tells me that I cannot in good conscience keep my promise, I shall permit you to withdraw your plea of guilty, reinstate your plea of not guilty, and the case will proceed to trial. You understand that?
Yes, I do.
Additionally, my promise is also conditional on the following things. You must cooperate with the probation department. You must not be arrested for any offense in this or any other jurisdiction. Finally, you must appear on the date I set for sentencing or any adjourned date. If you fail to abide by any of these conditions, I will not be bound by my sentencing promise to you, and you will not be permitted to withdraw your guilty plea. Further, I'll be at liberty to sentence you to any appropriate sentence, including the maximum sentence allowed by law. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
Now, other than the
Terry, he is handcuffed. He's handcuffed behind his back.
promise that was placed on the record by the people, has anyone, myself, your lawyer, the prosecutor, or anyone else made any promises to you in return for your plea of guilty?
The only thing I want to interject, Judge, Mr. Tierney has indicated in exchange for the pleas that we're going to enter into this morning, there'll be no further prosecutions on the 8 victims that he's referenced. He is also, my client is also obligated to completely, truthfully, and fairly cooperate with the Federal Bureau of Investigation's Behavioral Analysis Unit as part of what we've just discussed,
Any other promises made to you?
other than what I just said.
No.
Are you pleading guilty voluntarily and of your own free will?
Yes.
All right, we're going to swear in the defendant now. Remove the
Yikes. I thought we had it all, but they cut it off. I don't know if that was something that was court ordered, but
Probably.
yeah, it was cut off. Essentially, I heard the audio from it, and I read a transcript. The district attorney read off all of the charges, and then he asked him, and I'm not going to go through them all because it's 8 times. He said to him, on July 10th of 2010, were you with Maureen Brainerd Barnes? And he said, yes. Did you meet her? Yes. Did you strangle her? Yes. Did you dump her remains? Yes. And they went down for each of the victims, and he basically said yes to everything 7 times. And then there was a further discussion about the 8th victim. Again, he wasn't charged with the 8th victim, but I have it written down, boss. 325 to life without the possibility of parole sentences. Charges 4, 7 through 10, or 6 through 10, 25 to life to run consecutive. So he's not going to see the light of day. He's going to die in prison, upstate New York, hopefully somewhere really shitty, in one of those really shitty New York State prisons that are dilapidated. And, people are saying that there's going to be prison justice, but we're going to have a former prisoner who did 17 years. I think this guy is going to be a hero in his unit because he's going to be in with a bunch of murderers. So because he was never convicted of murdering babies or children or, I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think he's going to have a hard time. And you shook your head and agreed that he's not going to.
I don't think he's going to have a hard time. I think this is the next chapter of his life. Since he can't, here's what's going to happen. And I think the behavioral unit will pick up on this. you see his body language when Brown mentioned that he's going to cooperate with them.
Yeah.
That's how he continues this. That's how he relives the joy of killing. All right. This is how he does it. And he does it in prison as well, because everybody's going to be like, ooh. And then it's going to be like, you know how we sit around and we talk about cases and about how great it was to solve them? Murderers sit around and go, yeah, well, I snuffed this one out. And they don't care. It's the same thing for them. It's a way of life for them. It's a bizarre way of life that, intermingles with our lives when we talk about these things. But, make no mistake about it, he's not going to have a hard time with this, other than the fact the biggest problem he's going to have, unless he snuffs somebody in jail, is that he can't kill anymore. All right. That's his biggest problem as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and he's got that. This is part of his sickness. He has a inherent need to hunt and hunt down his victims, and he likes those small, as he said in his writings, small, petite women, easy for him to dispose of. He had that whole big laundry list of do's and don'ts and how to get rid of DNA and evidence and so forth, but he screwed up because his hair, his wife's hair, and including his daughter Victoria's hair were commingled, because he used items from within that home where everyone resided, and that Lacard's exchange principle comes into effect, where if you're there and you're going through and using pieces or clothes items to tie people up and all the things that I'm not going to get into it, but the horrible things that he did, he used items from within that home, and that's where possibly Victoria Heuermann and Asa Ellerup's hairs were commingled into the bodies, but we'll never know definitively.
Yeah, but that's the thing, people, especially in your chat, that's the thing that pisses me off the most. All right, that she gets away scot-free with this. How she was ready to say, oh, there's no way come on. I mean, you live with this monster for years. You're going to tell me you didn't know there were weird things about him, all right, that you don't pick up on these things. And people are going to say, well, you'll get the Thurston Howells over there going, good God, Lovey, it's true, and this and that. But it's not true. You know that this guy's an animal. He's probably done once again, a Wolverine, to correct myself. He's out there and he's doing this, and you're going to tell me that she has no tie-ins to this whatsoever. There is absolutely no way this guy's family, that this woman should be able to do anything to profit off of this. It should go to the victims' families, not her family. All right. There's no way they should really change these laws. They really should.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, boss. And, yesterday, Asa Ellerup and her attorney did a press conference outside on the front of their home. And one of the reporters asked, I'm going to play some of it. I'll keep it playing in the background as we speak. But one of the reporters asked the attorney for Asa Ellerup, and this attorney really hates John Ray. John Ray hates him. They both hate each other. But somebody from the media asked him, why is your client profiting from what her husband did to 7, arguably at that point they didn't know he was going to plead to 8 victims through Peacock Network and through 50 Cent's production company. She stands to make multi-millions. The cameras follow her everywhere, at the courthouse, in her house, on interviews. And you know what he said to them? My client, just like every American, has the right to profit off of stories. Every serial killer's family makes profit off of their loved ones' murders. And I was so taken back by that statement. He basically said, yeah, too bad. This is America, and she's allowed to make money off of the backs of these murdered victims. And for me, I will never be okay with that. That disgusts me. That makes me outraged. It makes me sick to my stomach when I think about it. How could somebody sleep at night and make money off of what their husband did and how they brutalized 8?
It's the same way drug dealers do it. They're in the same company. All right. It's blood money. No matter how you look at it, it's blood money. But I think the law should change it. The same way the Rex can't get any money for it. It should convey to his family that they want to write a book about their life with Rex. That's one thing. All right. You want to write a book about the killings and everything else, and mentioning all the victims and all for this particular thing. I don't think you have a right to do that. All right. I don't think you have a right to do that. And I think it should be taken away from them.
Yeah, I agree with you, boss. Let's go to the chat and ask what the chat thinks. Do you think that Victoria, well, not so much the daughter, but the mom, it's alleged by John Ray that they are both making millions. It's not just, don't forget, she's an adult now. She worked for her father, Victoria. But mom here, Asa Ellerup, and Victoria stand to make multi-million dollars off of the Peacock deal. And they're getting peppered with questions right now. Let's just listen.
Decision about a guilty plea, has that been shared with the family about life and her process through this?
Them making money.
Yeah,
is going to happen in court tomorrow.
Has there been a lot of them to plead guilty?
They have not been involved in the decision making of Rex one way or another.
There's been a lot of news about them making money off of this documentary. Peacock is here.
Peacock is here.
What do you say to that?
I say this is America. People are entitled to whatever they are entitled to do. This is nothing about Rex Heuermann. This is about Asa's life and her process through this, Victoria's life and her process through this whole thing. There's no comment other than that.
Would also like to comment at all directly about?
No, she will not.
And is there can you go over any insight into why Rex may have changed his decision about a guilty?
Look at the way she's looking at them, man. So that's pretty good. I watched that yesterday and I kind of kept it in the back of my head, and it's exactly what he said. Exactly what I said before this is America. They can make money off of this. Like, are you kidding me? These people were tortured, sadistically murdered, and dismembered. We have one head that was found way out in the Pine Barrens in Suffolk County. And then months and months later, her body in a black garbage bag, the torso, with the arms cut off and legs cut off, in wash up on Gilgo Beach. And this is okay for you to make money off of this? I cannot get past that. And listen, we've seen a lot of awful things in our career, Joe, but when you do something like this, it puts you on a whole nother level of, you really take your likability very down low. And
you look at her standing there, and she looks like Throw Mama from the Train. Look at her. Throw Mama from the Train is going to get money for this. You're going to get money for this, and you're going to sit there smug behind your lawyer and not even answer the questions as to why you're doing it, why you did something like that. The only reason you do this is for money. All right. You want to get your voice out there, hold your own press conference and say something and put an end to it that way. If you need closure for yourself, the only reason why you do this is for money.
Yeah. Bingo. Let's go to the chat. #Ron, #Joe. This is going to be almost a 2-hour live stream. I want to cut it at 1 hour and 40. We're at hour 37. So we got another 10 minutes or give or take. #DutyRon, or just put #Ron, #Joe. We'll answer a couple of questions. Rex Heuermann is done. He pled guilty. We won't hear anything from him as it pertains to these 8 victims. But if there is more victims that come up in other states or within, we heard the DA, the district attorney, said there's more bodies out in Suffolk County. And when he said that was something I keyed in on. I homed in on that because that, to me, is big. All right, let's go. Let's see what we got in the chat. Cindy says, Ron, so true. He's a smug demon, possessed evil person. He's a menace to society. And you know what? The whole time he was out, anybody could have been his victim. Any random woman, any male, anybody that, when his appetite for murder was strong, because he was still hunting for sex workers till the day he was caught on burner phones. So yes, Sheila says she's absolutely should not make any money off this. But you know what? If she insists on making money off of it, she should donate it to the victims' families. Make that money, donate it to the victims' families. I don't care how bad you are on the balls of your ass or whatever the case may be, but taking that money is blood money, in my opinion. Hashtag Ron, will his DNA be countrywide? Yeah, absolutely. He's going to be in CODIS. So once you're convicted and sentenced of a crime, convicted, sentenced, found guilty, you're in CODIS. That's the FBI's criminal identification system. So Lucky says, will he have access or be able to have his files and photos? Will he have access? That will allow him to relive it over and over again. You know, people have asked this on other cases, Joe, and I'm not an attorney, so I don't like to go out of my preview. You know, like I don't want to speak outside of my expertise, and I'm not sure. I think that there's a lot of victim advocacy groups out there that may fight against that, because what kind of a look would that be if a serial killer had all of his 8 victims that he pled guilty to hanging in his cell, pictures of them? I don't think they'll allow that. But
you know, the jails have to stay on top of that. I mean, but look at he could relive it by going and saying he's going to look on the computer. But then once again, the way you limit your children of what they could see on the internet, they should limit him as to what he could see. All right. But then again, look at Luigi Mangione. He can do anything he wants. You know, come on.
Yeah, I'm aware of this mystery girl with Missy. I choose to not, you know, like people like do things like that with fundraising and all that stuff. I'm outraged by that, and I don't like it one bit, but I'm not going to sit here and poo-poo Melissa Moore, Happy Face Killer's daughter. Everybody's free to do what they want to do. It doesn't mean that I have to like it or you have to like it, but at the end of the day, we all have the freedom of our mouth to speak. And my opinion is I would not feel comfortable supporting somebody like this who had a husband who dismembered and brutalized many, many people, whether it's unbeknownst to her or not. Once you know that's happening, I can tell you my wife would disown me. There would be no visits in jail. There would no be calling me a hero anymore. My wife would not give accolades to me. As a matter of fact, she would probably go into hiding and never show her face again if, God forbid, I did something like that. So Little Patty says, shout out to at DutyRon, shout out to all who worked this case. Yeah, everybody who worked it properly. Yeah. Yep. Fuzzy Doxy says, yeah, I bet there's more victims. Yeah, we do definitely agree there, 100%. Trying to see if there's any more questions. I see a lot of comments. There's a thank you, DutyRon. Karen Gal, 59, thank you. Yeah, horrible, evil. So 101 GM8 says, it's not fair to judge the wife and daughter, but we can certainly agree if we suspect she knew that would not support a movie. I would not support her movie even if she didn't have any knowledge of it. Because
I got another side to that too. I'd like to take a piece of that one. So if you really if you're so distressed by all this ongoing and everything, why not let your attorney make the statement for you behind closed doors at his desk in his office? Why are you standing outside like you're daring everybody to challenge you on this? And you got that smug look, just like your husband has that smug look on his face. Why are you even standing out there? All right. Because you're almost bragging about the fact that he mentioned that you're entitled to make money. And so if you really want to face the victims and their family and everything, then do so. But don't stand behind your lawyer and do it, or don't stand outside. Let your lawyer make the statement for you like he did, but you don't have to stand there and stare people down like you're just as smug as your husband there. Come on, I disagree with that.
Yeah, I got you. Hey, we're all respectfully voicing what we feel. Ocean Girl says Chris Watts has a photo of his family, his wife, and his children. I don't believe that unless I see it. I would never believe that, because he murdered Shanann and his 2 children and his unborn son. I think it would be a travesty of justice to allow a vicious murderer who killed his entire family, to allow him to have pictures of them up in his cell. I beg to differ with that. Ocean Girl, if you can show me proof of it, or if someone can show me proof of it, then I would eat my words. But I don't think that that's true. I think that's false internet hogwash. That is Jagaloon 101. That's just my opinion, and I'm not shooting the messenger because I love you, Ocean Girl. You know that, but I don't think that's true. I think that's internet hogwash, as I say it. All right, let's wrap it up, Joe. 1:43 and 56 seconds. I want to thank retired Lieutenant Commander Joe Cardinale for giving us 2 hours on a Wednesday. He's got a lot of things going on. He's running for office. Joe, do you want to talk a little bit about it before we wrap?
I'll do it quickly. We'll stick to the facts today. No, I'm running for the New York State Assembly in District, it's AD 11 on Long Island, a little bit of Nassau, mostly into Suffolk County. People ask me all the time, why are you doing this? Why? Because we have to make a difference up in Albany. Just like cops make the difference in the case today, we have to make the difference for the cops up in Albany. That's the bottom line for it.
Amen, brother. I'm here to support you no matter what goes on and however you need me. I want to send strength, prayers, and positive vibes to, first and foremost, the victims here in this case, the victim's family. They are what means most to us. And Joe, I know you're on the same page with me. We feel strongly about the victims and their families. We always put them first because that's who we worked for our entire career. It wasn't about working for that paycheck, because we know, God knows, we didn't make a lot of money. What we did do is a lot of God's work and bring justice for many, many individuals. So again, I want to thank you all for being here. This has been a special day of coverage of the Long Island serial killer Rex Heuermann. Pled guilty to 7 charges of murder. He acknowledged an 8th murder charge. I know there'll be more. We will be on it. We'll be covering this, and we'll be covering every ounce of this. So to the moderators, the replay viewers, the super chatters, there were many super chatters, too many to mention here. I think I got to most of them. Yeah, I definitely did. There was the bottom one. I want to thank everyone who takes that next step to become members, to give a like, a thumbs up. It's an easy thing to do. Leave us a comment. Joe scans the comments and he gets back to me with answering of the comments. So if you have a comment for either one of us, please leave it down below. We appreciate that. And until next time, as Ed Wallace says, stay safe, stay prepared, and watch your 6. That is important in everything in life. If you're at the grocery store, if you're out shopping and you are a woman or a man, make sure you know your surroundings, because demons like Rex Heuermann walk amongst us. I'm not trying to create fear. I'm just trying to create awareness. There are monsters out there, killing machines that are out in society, in communities unknown to us, like Rex Heuermann. So always keep your head on a swivel. Joe, I'll give you a last word.
No, just, thanks to all the viewers out there for really taking, an interest in these cases, because it shows the human side to this, not the monster side to it. So I think it's important. And I love the feedback from everybody, whether it be good or bad. It's always good to have the conversation, keep the conversation open. And in the words of a lieutenant commander like myself, Vernon Gebhardt, who taught the practical homicide course, remember, we work for God. That's the bottom line. He gave us plaques for that. Remember, we work for God.
Amen. In God we trust. All others we polygraph. All right. Thank you again for joining, and thank you, Joe. I appreciate it. I'm signing the slip at the end of this. Your audio sounded great today, by the way. That mic is a key. So thank you for getting that. You're the best.
You're the best, bud. Take care.
We'll see you all soon.